Now we're going to market research, because we are all little street bees. Tugce from originally Turkey, company headquartered in London.
Thanks.
Stage is yours. Thank you to be back at NOAH.
Absolutely,
Really enjoy.
my pleasure. All right, so my first question to everyone here is, why are you not having drinks in a pub already and you are sitting in this room? You must be asking yourself the same question. So let's make sure it's worth your time while we are still sitting here and listening to us, because we will talk about human choices. Why did you choose today to come here? Why did you choose to actually be in this room right now rather than actually having a drink somewhere else? But before we start with that, one of the key choices we make every day is about what we eat and what we drink, right? So you might be feeling that this evening you need to have some broccoli, ideally steamed, probably not fried, right? And all of a sudden you find yourself with like a big ice cream in your hands, maybe at 11 p.m. It was absolutely not planned. And there are all those ice cream companies out there who would keep asking you questions around, how often do you eat ice cream? And can you really answer that question? How many of you can actually count last year, in the last 12 months, how many times you ate ice cream? It's an absolutely impossible question to answer. As a result of that, what we increasingly see is that the world's largest consumer companies, which are all over $50 billion revenues, are struggling to grow because they are struggling to understand why humans do what they do and how they make their choices. Meanwhile, they're spending about $75 billion every year on research to understand the consumer. And it's very common, if you ever worked with one of the world's largest consumer companies, you would hear that they never hear anything they don't already know from research. Now, when we were dealing with this question, what we thought is that it's not that you are doing bad research. There is something structurally wrong with market research. People don't know why they do what they do. And we keep asking them, hoping that they can give us the answer, but we got to accept the fact that they don't actually know, because a lot of our behavior is not consciously decided, right? But instead, we got to stop picking up the topic for the consumers to do market research, framing the questions, framing the answers, but instead actually listen to them. Why? Because a big part of our decision-making is completely emotional. When you are in front of a fridge and you're trying to decide, all right, shall I have some broccoli or shall I have some ice cream right now, you are having a cognitive dissonance moment. What that means is that there are different drivers in terms of how you're going to make that choice. Is the rational decision, I should be healthy? Or is it something that I actually just want to have an ice cream, I had a bad day, so should I choose that? If we ask you questions, you will justify your reasons. But instead, if we just watch you in that moment, just over your shoulder, be there with you in that moment, with a video, maybe some text and messaging between us, we can then actually understand why you do what they do. This is exactly what we invented with Streetbees. Streetbees is a conversational research app. It pretty much exactly works like WhatsApp. It's in your phone, and when you are doing things during the day, you can share with us. You might be shaving in the morning, washing your face, using skincare products. You might be later in the evening having some ice cream, or you might be just shopping or having actually a beer in the pub with your friends. We are in your pocket in the app, so you start taking a video, you share what's going on with us in your own words, all open text, and we call that unstructured data. And we start looking into that data to understand what is going on. But here's the key point. This is not like what you share in Instagram, which is a bit more like vanity moments, right? Like when you're having that avocado with eggs and it looks fantastic, of course you're going to put that on Instagram. But the reality is 90% of consumption that the companies are interested in are not really Instagram attractive. We are interested in those moments when you are putting some Marmite and butter on your toast and eating it in 2 minutes. We would like to also find out about that moment. That's the reason why we have this very intimate relationship with our users, that about 2.6 million people in 150 countries are constantly sharing with us what they do and why they do that. And this can go all the way to a condom company we are working with, which wants to understand real intimate moments and how people are making choices in those kind of moments. And we do have that intimate relationship with the users to be able to ask them about it. Now, why did this never happen before? Of course, it's much better to ask people what's going on and then use unstructured data in the form of text to understand consumer behavior. So why wasn't this already happening before Streetbees existed? The main reason is, if you are collecting, imagine billions of data points, right, coming from like thousands and thousands of different moments, how are you going to analyze them? No human being can read through a billion different data points and remember the patterns in it. It was impossible to use. And first of all, when we first started the business, our thinking was that it was the biggest barrier was scale. But then what we realized is that there's a huge human bias as well. So imagine someone talking about, I used to live with my brother, now my brother moved out, and, I'm just actually not feeling great tonight. When we looked at human-generated codes, they would categorize that moment as someone feeling down or low. But actually, when machine looked into that, it identified it is also as being lonely. And imagine now you can detect every single emotion at a granular level in every single conversation ever happening in billions and billions of conversations, which then allows us to be able to see, okay, this moment is not just about being down, this person is also actually feeling lonely. Now we have built a knowledge graph and trained our deep neural networks over the last 4 years to be able to identify any emotion, any mood that we can see in any particular moment. Now, understanding ice cream consumption is obviously an exciting starting point, but what we also started discovering is that it also predicts consumer confidence. It also predicts consumer spend, because when in a country people are starting to feel anxious about job security, if they are feeling more lonely or depressed, that's of course then reflected into their consumer spending, which then influences the economic growth in the country as well. For example, one of the things that we found out is that 60% of our food choices in the moment are not determined by hunger. Are there any other guesses? What could it be? What emotion, what mood might be behind 60% of our food choices? Anyone? Depression, that's a really good one. It's very close. It's loneliness. It's actually, we are eating not because we are hungry. We are eating because we are feeling lonely. And then you can start seeing the correlation by country between obesity and to what extent it's the loneliness which is the main driver behind food as well. Now, how it works is really simple. There's an app where you can put photos, videos, or in the moment chat with us. It's obviously automated. All of that information, the images get tagged, videos get transcribed, and they all turn into text. And then we put all that text through our own deep neural networks to be able to understand what are the emotions, what are the drivers behind those moments, and then we can cluster them into meaningful results for our clients. For example, obviously sustainability is a huge topic at the moment, and everyone is wondering what is the tipping point in sustainability? If you're a water company, and if you consumers wake up one day and decide not to buy any more plastic bottled water, you're going to be in serious trouble. So you do need to know when that moment is coming so that you can actually change your supply chain, change your packaging before that happens, before the tipping point, right? But if you relied on claimed research that the traditional market research would do, it says 80% of people already are saying that I don't want to buy plastic bottled water. But actually, when we ask them in the very moment of purchase, what made you buy this right now? Only in 4% of them, people actually mention sustainability-related factors as one of the reasons why they bought what they bought. Basically, what Streetbees allows is that a lot of the very exciting machine learning technology that allows us to detect emotions, mood, drivers behind human choice, which was not accessible for marketeers or brands because it was a 7,000-dimensional universe, and unless you had a PhD degree in physics, it was a pretty difficult system to work with. We reduced it into a 2-dimensional universe where you can easily see from this unstructured data what the key patterns are. Now, this is just a starting. What we are now building using our knowledge graph and the neural networks is actually a search engine. With this search engine, you would not need to run market research anymore. Let's say you are Prezzo, a casual Italian restaurant in the UK, and you want to understand how to raise your revenues during summertime. You don't have money to give to consultants for like a 2-month project. You don't have 2 months to wait either. So you can come to our search engine, you write your question, and within a matter of moments, we will be able to answer to you where the growth opportunities are for casual Italian restaurants. In the same way for consumers themselves, as a next step, it's going to be also possible for people to come into the platform and give us who they are and what they are up to, and we would be able to help them explain why they themselves feel the way they feel. Thank you very much.